Today I'm going to show you how to create the Beetlejuice inspired spiral coaster. Obviously you can make these in whatever color that you prefer. I am going to make them Beetlejuice Halloween inspired since we're coming very close to Halloween. For this project you will need 3 colors, 2 colors to make that spiral, and then a little bit of a third color to work the border. You can use cotton yarn, acrylic yarn, whatever you have available. You really don't need a super ton of yarn even for that spiral work. I am just using 4-weight acrylic yarn for this, a 5mm crochet hook. You'll also need some scissors and a yarn needle. So let's jump right into the Beetlejuice inspired spiral coasters. To start, grab your first color. For mine, I'm going to be using green and white for the spiral center. So pick up your first color and work a slip knot on your hook. You can also do this pattern with a magic ring. However, it is a little bit more tricky. So I'm just going to chain 4, slip stitch right back into that first chain to create a little ring. We're going to chain 1, and this does not count as a stitch. It's just kind of getting us up to the correct height. Now in that center ring, so you can kind of see there's that hole right in the center, we're going to work a single crochet, a half double crochet, and 4 double crochets into that center with your starting color. Once you have your single crochet, half double crochet, and 4 double crochets into that center, you're going to pull up on your hook and make a really long loop. Now here also a stitch marker or something that you can put to kind of hold that loop so it doesn't pull back through your stitches can be helpful, but I find that if you just make a long enough loop it won't come undone. So at this point we're going to pick up our second color. So for me that's green. I am just going to put a slip knot on my hook, insert. So here's where we ended. There's my long loop that I don't want to come back through the stitches. We're going to work right into that loop right next to where we ended that white. Once you have your slip knot on your hook, you're just going to put it right in and make sure those strands are on this side and not tangled up in your loops or your working yarn from your first color. So you just want to hold those off to the other side, and with the new color slip stitch to join. Chain 1, and now work the same thing that we've done. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch. We're going to work that same pattern that we worked for our first color. That's a single crochet, a half double crochet, and 4 double crochets all into that middle ring. You should have something like this. We're going to pull our ends as tight as we can to close up that ring, that center, as tightly as we can. If you've used a magic ring, that will tighten up a little bit more than if you did the chain 4 and slip stitch into the first to start your ring. Now we're going to go back to the white. So that was round 1. So the color that you work with first, so in my case it was the white, that is always going to be the start of your next round. The second color, for me it's the green, is always going to be the color that you end with for a round. So I'm going to pull that up, leave a long tail, kind of turn my work and insert my hook right back into the white loop, pull it tight, and now we can work over top of the green. This is the start of round 2. You should have 6 total stitches, including the stitch where your loop is coming out of. So I like to count backwards just so I know which stitch to work into here, because remember we did a chain 1 to start and that does not count as a stitch. So you don't want to accidentally work into that chain 1. So I'm going to count my stitches: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So into that stitch we're going to work 2 double crochets. And we're going to work 2 double crochets into the next 5 stitches. And that should include that stitch right there where your loop, your green loop, is coming out of. So I've done 1. I need a total of 6, working into 6 stitches, 2 double crochets into each of those stitches. And this last one is tricky because, like I said, that loop is coming right out of that stitch. But you just kind of hold that loop to the side and work your stitches into the actual stitch. And that is half of round 2. So continuing with round 2, we're going to work with the green. So pull that loop up really tall so you don't lose it as you're working the green. Find your green loop or your second color loop, put your hook in and pull it tight. See if I can find the working end. There we go. So now I'm ready to work my second color. We're going to skip that very first chain 1 that we did. You want the first stitch that we did, so that first single crochet. And we're going to work 2 double crochets into that stitch. And just like we did with the white, we're going to work 2 double crochets into the next 5. So that is a total of 2 double crochets into 6 stitches. So we've already done 2 double crochets in that first stitch. I'm going to work 2 double crochets into each of the next 5 stitches. And that is the end of round 2. So pull up your loop, remove your hook, turn your work, and insert your hook into the loop from your first color and pull it tight. For round 3, we are working over the next 12 stitches, and the stitch repeat is 2, 1. So what that means is in the first stitch, so that next stitch over, that first stitch, we're going to work 2 double crochets right into the same stitch, and then 1 double crochet into the next. So that's 2, 1. 2 into that stitch, 1 into the next. 2 into the next stitch, 1 into the next. So you repeat that 2-1 pattern over the next 12 stitches, and you'll end your last stitch will be right where that loop is. So I'm going to keep working my 2-1 pattern until I get to the end over here. My last stitch is going to go right into that last stitch here where that loop is coming out of. Once you've done that, you can pull up, remove your hook, go to your next color, so that green color, and put your hook in, pull it tight, and we're going to do the same thing with our green or our second color. We're going to work 2, 1, 2, 1 over the next 12 stitches. If you have a stitch marker and you find that helpful, I like to count over 12 stitches along my work and then put that stitch marker in either on that 12th stitch or even on the 13th one, and that just kind of tells you stop. I'm done with that repeat. I need to switch to my first color. So over the next 12 stitches we're going to work 2 double crochets into the first stitch and 1 double crochet over the next, 2 double crochets into the next stitch and 1 double crochet into the next. And we're going to do that around until we've worked into 12 stitches. And 12. So I've worked over those 12 stitches, and that is the end of the round. To start the next round, you want to pull up, remove your hook, turn, find that loop from your first color, insert your hook, pull tight, and we can start the next round. For this round, round 4, we are going to be doing a 2, 1, 1 pattern. So into the first stitch you're going to work 2 double crochets, and then a double crochet over the next 2 stitches. So 1 double crochet into the next and 1 double crochet into the next. So that's 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2, 1, 1. And you're going to work that stitch pattern over the next 15 stitches, a total of 18 stitches if you count what I just did there. So before you start this row, if I hadn't done those, you would have 18 total stitches around until you get to this point. So you want to work the 2, 1, 1 over those 18 stitches. I've already worked into 3, so I have to do that again into the next 15 stitches. Just working my last double crochets into those last 2 stitches, and that completes half of round 4. Pull up the loop, remove your hook, find your second color loop, insert your hook, pull tight, and we can do the same thing now with the green. 2, 1, 1. So over the next 18 stitches. Again, if you find it helpful to use a stitch marker, count over 18 stitches, put your stitch marker in. That will just keep you on track and let you know to stop with that color. So into that first stitch we're going to work our 2 double crochets, and then a double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and that is our 2, 1, 1 pattern. And I'm going to do this the same way I worked with the white. I've already worked into 3 stitches, so into the next 15 stitches I'm going to repeat that 2, 1, 1 pattern, so 2 double crochets into the next and a double crochet into the next 2. Once you've worked into the 18 stitches with your second color, you'll have something like this. Now we need to taper down our ends. So right now we've got this big gap on either side where our colors have ended. We're going to taper that down a bit. Sticking with the green, into the next stitch we're going to work a double crochet. Into the next 3 stitches we're going to work 1 half double crochet. So half double crochet into the next, half double crochet into the next, and one more time a half double crochet into the next stitch. So you can see how we're kind of tapering that down. Into the next stitch we're going to work a half double crochet and a single crochet into that same stitch. Into the next 2 stitches just work a single crochet. So single crochet into the next and a single crochet into the next, and now we can slip stitch to bring that to a close. So I'm going to slip stitch into each of the next 2 stitches, pull up my loop a little bit, cut my yarn, and that finishes that green color. We're going to do the same thing with our white, or your first color now. So put your hook into that loop and do the same thing. A double crochet into the next stitch, a half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, into the next we want a half double crochet and a single crochet into the same stitch, a single crochet into the next 2 stitches, finishing off with a slip stitch over the next 2. Pull up that loop a little bit, cut your yarn, and we've got our spiral coaster. I like to add a little bit of a border. You don't have to, so the border is optional. I just like to mix in that 3rd color to kind of make these all tie in with each other. So because I used green and white for my spiral, I will be using black to put on a single crochet border. Grab my coaster, and you can start in any stitch that you feel like. Does not matter. I've left my ends on. I'm just going to weave them all in at the end. So I'm just going to insert my hook into any of these stitches. Pull up a loop and single crochet. Into the next stitch, single crochet. Next stitch, single crochet. And I'm just single crocheting into each stitch all the way around, and it will just kind of give our coaster a slight border and tie in all of these colors and coasters together. When you get to your slip stitches, sometimes these are a little bit tricky to see where you should be working into. Use your best judgment. You just want a single crochet into each stitch all the way around. Try to work fairly loosely, because you will, the tighter you work, you will find that the edges kind of curl up, because we're not increasing any as we're working around, we're just putting that border on. If you find that it curls up an extreme amount, you can always try to block it when you're finished, or you may find that adding 2 single crochets here and there throughout as you're working around may help to stop some of that curling up. But I find that if you just work fairly loosely, your single crochets all the way around, and sort of gently block at the end, the curling will sort of figure itself out. As you get around to where you started, Continue just working a single crochet into each stitch. When you're back here, just work a slip stitch to that very first single crochet that you did. You can cut your yarn, fasten off, weave in all of your tails. You can see it curls up just a little bit, but like I said, I find that if you stretch it out, gently block it if you feel it needs it, or just lay, a heavy book or something on top of it, the curling will figure itself out. So I'm going to go ahead, weave in these ends, and then we'll take a look at all of these Beetlejuice inspired spiral coasters. Let's take a look at all of these Beetlejuice inspired spiral coasters. How fun are these? And I just love mixing up the green and the black and the white. You can create quite a variety of different color patterns in this project. Once you get the hang of working those two colors to create the spiral for each round, this pattern works up super quick and can be made for any occasion with any colors and really any type of yarn and crochet hook that you have available. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Until next time, happy crocheting everyone. Bye!